name is Graham Capel, and I designed the Lotus 11 GT, this similar to this one here, for my racing season in 1964. And we had a very successful season. In 14 events, we were placed 11 times. In 1963, I raced a Sebring Sprite, and it wasn't really fast enough for anything that I wanted at the time, and I learned that the Lotus 11 GT was actually homologated as a production road car. So I went to Lotus and talked to Colin Chapman, and he provided me with copies of the original RAC homologation papers that enabled the Lotus 11 that I was already racing to be converted to a GT and race in the sports racing in GT class. So I went to John Blythe and Company, metal fabricators in Red Hill Aerodrome, and I designed the bodywork for it, styled on the Ferrari Breadvan, which everyone thought was just tremendous. And we managed to find 2 World War II Mosquito drop tanks on the metal dump at Red Hill Aerodrome, and we brought these back, and they're cut into 4 segments, and they make up the side curvature of the GT bodywork. And this GT bodywork is exactly the same as I raced on chassis number 344 in 1964, because when it was found 15 years later, it was reconverted to a Lotus 11, and the people who did the conversion gave me back the original hardtop, which I was able to give to Neil Twyman in 2012 to include on this car.
And that roof was with Graham, and I phoned Graham, I tracked him down, asked him to go out for lunch. We had a nice lunch, and I think he was vetting me as to whether or not I should be allowed to rebuild his car. And then at the end of the lunch he said, I think you better come back home because I've got the original roof. And I kind of thought, that's it, we've done it.
I felt very honoured. I mean, no one had ever asked to make a copy of a car I had raced or designed ever before. So I was really pleased, and I gave them all sorts of pictures. I had some original drawings. I gave them all the details I possibly could, and I went up to Twyman and worked several times to see how it was going.
I think Graham always said to me that the reason he did it was that a sports car with a roof put on it, rather than built as a GT car, would always beat a GT car. And in 2014, we brought and unveiled the car at members meeting, and sure enough, it had a spankingly good race.
And it finished second to a 4.5 litre Aston Martin GT. And this is only 1500 cc's. It was an amazing race.
Fantastic start for some of the bigger cars, some of the elites getting swallowed, but it's the Breadvan with the sneaking across in front of the Aston, but from the outside, and Twyman gets through past Friedrich, but Friedrich's powers back, so quite potentially this battle could go all the way.
Well, down to 4th
Hadfield's
place.
second, and Brian's third at St Mary's.
Yep.
The clock has ticked away to 0 as Hadfield comes into Woodcote. Bryant right on his tail again. There's only one more corner to go, the chicane. They're going to be clear of traffic. A little vicious twitch from the back of the Lotus. The Aston goes through. Surely it's a drag race now. And in the drag race, big car normally beats little car, but not by much. It's by about 3/4 of a length. Now it stretches to about 3 lengths at the finish.
On every corner, the Lotus caught up with the back of the Aston, but of course the Aston just out-accelerated all the time.
The engine in there at the moment is a 1500 Coventry Climax, but in period it ran 1100 FWB, because that was the class point at which engines could run up to. I raced it in 2014, 2015, and it's just fantastic. It's a bit claustrophobic in there, and it gets a bit hot. And very difficult to do a driver change, but it is a magical car, and it is a proper race car.
This is the book I wrote in 1998 on the Lotus 11s, and at the back of the chapter I managed to include a section on the Lotus 11 GTs, and here is my original car as number 79, the same as you see this today, racing in the Tourist Trophy at Goodwood in September 1964. And as you can see, it is the closest copy you will ever get, even down to the logos and the decals.
I think it's fantastic to bring these cars back because they are unique, especially something like the Lotus Breadvan is well, there were 4 made, but there's only one with that roof shape, and I'm looking forward to seeing the Breadvan back up at the front giving it large.
I'm driving the Lotus 11 Breadvan and it's in the Stirling Moss Trophy. It drives really nicely, it's really well balanced, needs a slightly underpowered, but you just have to carry the speed, and I quite enjoy doing that. A lot of the cars I've driven at Goodwood have had a lot more power, so it's a kind of different mindset where you had to brake before, now I don't really have to brake. So I'm looking forward to a slightly different challenge. The secret to driving anything as quickly as possible is to not slow down. So it's high corner apex speeds, late braking, but not really too late, just carrying the speed. I like it. It's grown on me since I've driven it the last couple of weeks, and we've worked on it in our workshop. It's sleeker than it looked initially, and there was more thought out than I thought originally. So it's a beautiful little car, really. Yeah, you always want to bring out a car that people like to look at, that's a bit different. We don't like to see the same cars going round. Smaller, lighter, more nimble, so it's fast in different places to the other cars on the grid, so we could have a good little nip and tuck. Well, as always, I always hope just to come back, everything in one piece working and get to the checkered flag. Anything after that's always a bit of a bonus. I think if we do the ultimate time in the car, we should be in the top 10, and we should have a few good battles out there. There's a few other good drivers in the grid, so looking forward to it.
Huge array of cars, haven't we, Bruce? We've got Jaguar E-Types, the Shelby Cobras, Aston Martins and some Ferraris in the mix there.
But we have something completely different. It's the Lotus, as you've not really seen it very often before. The Lotus 11 Breadvan, that is with the extended bodywork and the chopped tail there, and being driven very, very hard indeed from the outset by Will Nuttall, who's just such a star in any car he gets into, down into the compression out of St Mary's, chasing the Shelby Cobra up in front. That's car number 98.
It went great. The little car's going really well. It's still in one piece, all good, and just we came into the pits because we thought we'd just tweak it a little bit on the tyre pressures and take some tape off the rad, but it then wouldn't start again. So I think a bit of heat sink, which should be fine for tomorrow.
Moss Trophy for closed cockpit GT cars of up to 1963. 2 Aston Martins on the front row.
And then the AC Cobra and first of the Ferraris.
And then you get midfield. That's the world of the Austin Healey's. That little Lotus 11 Breadvan in among them.
And then the Lotus 11 Breadvan is ahead of all the Lotus Elites in the field. Let's put on a show, because that's what people come to see. Because the Lotus was such a good chassis, it was light, it was nimble, power to weight ratio, excellent. The Lotus on the back marker, so a good clean clear run all the way through the chicane and then on to start finish straight. And
that is the red flag. Well, there's no great supplies. We only had 2 minutes remaining on the clock, so I very much doubt we will get the racing going again.
Always the goal for the weekend for me, being an amateur driver, is to enjoy it and to finish the race and to get out of the car and know that you've just had the most amazing Goodwood experience yet again.